We're joined now by Brian Becker. He's executive director of the Answer Coalition, a nonprofit organization that advocates for social justice and against war. We've got a lot to digest there. Let's start with Nathan's report, this report about the Defense Department. What do you make of it?
Well, it was ordered by executive order by Donald Trump a year ago. So it's been a year in the making. It's 107 pages. It paints a very grim picture that the United States is this now helpless giant and will be unable to fight future wars because it's dependent on Chinese suppliers. It comes the day after Mike Pence's very vehement speech, hostile speech towards China. We have a rollout of a new campaign. It's a campaign. Unfortunately, I don't believe it's just Donald Trump or Peter Navarro who's been the one shepherding this report. Of course, Navarro is anti-China. He's a China hawk. He did the Death by China movie and book. He wasn't a China expert. He sort of reinvented himself when he could get this niche. But I think there's something else going on, which is that the Pentagon has a lot of money to spend right now, vast, expansive budgeting for the Pentagon and for the intelligence agencies. And so they need to do something with the money. So the U.S. government is now conflating defense and security interests with economic issues and sort of using national security as a pretext to carry out a comprehensive protectionist policy. So I think what they're saying basically is we're going to spend a lot of money, we're going to cut Chinese suppliers out of this thing. It's for national security to keep America safe. And give the money to American companies. I think that's really what's going on.
It's interesting. I interviewed Jimmy Carter a few years back, and he said every presidential candidate who's run since when he was in office, they've run against China. He goes, but then you get in office and you realize there's going to be areas of cooperation and competition. It seems as though the Trump administration doesn't want that cooperation part. It's just competition. Is this a new Cold War we're witnessing?
Yes, it's a new Cold War. And this is also, I think if you look at James Mattis, who's not really just a Trumpite, you can't really pin him as just a Trump sort of bullhorn. He represents a big part of the Pentagon establishment. In his speeches, also very hostile towards China, and not just about the South China Sea, insisting that China's one belt, one road is somehow a danger, where China emphasizes this is win-win. If we rise peacefully, it's good for the world, not negative for the United States. Mattis, the defense establishment, and the Trump administration take the opposite view. If China develops at all, if it becomes a medium-sized developed country, somehow that's an existential, foundational threat to America. That's the new line.
And this election interference charge, Beijing's calling it slander, is a recent op-ed piece titled, "Is Trump Preparing to Blame Midterm Losses on Chinese Meddling?" Do you see that as trying to create this kind of line of defense to basically scapegoat China if the Republicans don't do well in a month from now?
Well, certainly, if they don't do well, it's going to be China's fault. Just the way the Democrats, after 2016, they couldn't explain how they could lose to the most unpopular political leader in American history, Donald J. Trump. So they said that the Russians did it. There was no capacity to really reflect on what might have been done differently by the Democrats. Yes, Donald Trump will blame China if he loses the midterm elections. But even if he doesn't lose them, this is going to be the new narrative. China's the big monster. China's coming to spread chaos. China's taking over. It's creating within the population, or they're hoping to, a certain hostility to China that would allow political leaders to do, for opportunist reasons, almost anything they want to do, even if it's against the economic interests of, say, the people in Midwest states, agricultural states, Republican states, states that have benefited from trade with China. Even if it harms them, I think it's trying to throw smoke around them or sand in the eyes of people. I hope it doesn't work.
Well, we'll definitely be watching it and reporting on it. Brian, always a pleasure seeing you. Have a great weekend.